The silence of space was a lie. To Superman, it was a symphony of dying screams. Across the multiverse he felt it, a creeping, silent decay. Entire realities flickered and went dark, their final, desperate thoughts echoing in his mind. He followed the echoes of oblivion to their source, a nexus point where the fabric of space-time was thin and frayed. It was a graveyard of possibilities, littered with the ghostly after-images of worlds that no longer were. And there, seated upon a throne of asteroid rock, was a being who was no stranger to cosmic endings. He watched the unraveling not with horror, but with the cold, appraising gaze of a scholar. "Thanos," Superman's voice was a low growl, vibrating with contained power. "I should have known you'd be here, like a vulture circling a carcass." The Mad Titan turned his head slowly. "The vulture does not cause the death, Kryptonian. It merely attends the inevitable. You see a carcass. I see a disease." Words were done. Superman launched himself forward, a crimson and blue streak aimed at erasing this monument to nihilism from existence. Thanos rose to meet him, not with speed, but with immovable force. His gauntleted fist met Superman's, and for a moment, the nexus point knew true silence as all sound was annihilated by the impact. A shockwave erupted, shattering the ghostly remnants of dead worlds. The two beings were thrown apart, titans locked in a struggle that threatened to tear this fragile crossroads of reality to shreds. "Enough." Thanos' voice boomed, not with anger, but with weary command. He raised an open palm, and a wave of cosmic energy washed over Superman, not to harm, but to hold. "You fight the symptom. I have been studying the cause." Held fast by the Titan's power, Superman could only watch as Thanos gestured to the largest tear in reality. Look past your simplistic morality and see the truth." The tear shimmered, and an image resolved within it. It was a universe, vibrant and teeming with life. But from its core, from a small blue-green planet, tendrils of black rot were spreading outwards. "A reality cancer," Thanos explained, his voice grim. "Born of paradox and reckless power, of men who wielded infinity like a toy, breaking and remaking their world without thought for the consequences. It is consuming everything." Superman saw it then. The rot pulsed from a familiar Earth. He saw the faces of its heroes, the Avengers, oblivious to the fundamental damage they had caused with their cosmic wars and reality-altering snaps. They had saved their universe, only to doom all others. "It cannot be stopped," Thanos stated, lowering his hand and releasing the Kryptonian. "It can only be excised. The source must be cauterized. The entire infected reality must be unmade. You want to destroy an entire universe? Billions of innocent lives?" Superman's voice was barely a whisper. "That's madness. What is one universe when measured against all of them?" Thanos countered. "What are billions measured against infinity? Their heroes have already made their choice. Now you must make yours." For an eternity, Superman floated in the silence, the screams of the multiverse on one side, the life of a single universe on the other. He closed his eyes, a single, crystalline tear freezing on his cheek. What must be done? A grim understanding passed between them. Two beings, one who fought for life, one who had dealt in death, now united by a terrible purpose. They turned as one, their gazes fixed on the shimmering veil that separated them from their target. Meanwhile, in a lab, high above that Earth, alarms blared. Tony Stark watched his scanners, his blood running cold. "Something's coming," he said, his voice tight. "Something big. The energy readings are off the scale. They're impossible." Steve Rogers stepped up behind him, placing a hand on his shoulder. He looked at the readings. Two signatures, one of unimaginable power, the other of cosmic dread, both aimed directly at their world. "Then we'll face it," he said, his voice a bedrock of resolve. Together. The retreat was a ragged, desperate tear in the fabric of space. The Avengers tumbled through Doctor Strange's portal, the thunderous impacts of their battle with Superman and Thanos still echoing in their bones. They were battered, broken, and defeated. The portal snapped shut, leaving them in the sterile silence of the Sanctum Sanctorum. Doctor Strange cried out, clutching his head as his power flickered. He isn't being controlled," the sorcerer gasped, his voice thin. "He's being persuaded." "A dark influence, a veil from the reality tears themselves," Strange elaborated, his eyes distant. "It's twisting his very nature, whispering that annihilation is salvation, the greater good redefined as a tomb." Tony Stark, mask retracted, paced before a holographic display. "Persuaded? That's a software problem. If it's a signal, it can be jammed. There has to be a way to counteract this veil without what Thanos is proposing." "Logic won't be enough, Tony," Carol Danvers countered, her arms crossed. "This is Superman. He chose to help Thanos for a reason that goes beyond cold calculation. We need to find out why. We need to see what they've seen." Thor, who had been silently staring at his hammer, finally spoke. "The captain is right. To understand this madness, we must walk through the graveyard these titans have made." Following the faintest trail of cosmic destruction, they journeyed to a place that had been saved. It was a dimension of gray ash and whispering silence, where the laws of physics were fraying into nothingness. There, they found them, the dimension's mightiest heroes. They weren't dead, but stood as hollow statues, their eyes glowing with a faint purple light. Their minds were enslaved, their great power now serving only to accelerate the dimension's decay. "The veil doesn't just consume. It corrupts," Tony breathed, his scanners confirming the horror. "It takes a being's greatest strength, their noblest intent, and turns it into the very instrument of destruction." "It found the most noble soul in the multiverse," Steve said, his voice heavy with dawning dread. "And told him the only way to save everyone was to sacrifice a few billion at a time. He's not evil. He's a prisoner of his own hope." And then they understood Thanos. He wasn't a follower. He was a guide. He knew the veil's true nature and had made a terrifying pact to use Superman as a scalpel, to cut away the cancer before the whole body died, no matter the cost. "We're not sacrificing anyone," Tony declared, his voice ringing with renewed purpose. "We're not choosing between bad and worse. We're going to save them all. Carol, Thor, you're the heavy hitters. Buy us time. Steve, you're the only one who can get through to him." They found them waiting at the edge of their reality. Superman, his eyes glowing with cold, logical light, and Thanos, a grim warden at his side. The time for words was over. With a roar that shook the stars, Thor launched himself at the mad Titan. Mjolnir met the Infinity Gauntlet, and a storm of cosmic lightning and raw power erupted between them. It was a battle of pure, unadulterated might. Elsewhere in the battle, Iron Man and Captain Marvel flew in a frantic, synchronized dance. Tony deployed a series of resonant frequencies while Carol poured her own energy into them, working to forge a key that could unlock Superman's mind. Captain America stood before the Man of Steel, his shield the only thing between him and oblivion. "This isn't you, Clark," he said, his voice steady despite the impossible odds. "The veil is feeding you a lie." Superman's face remained a mask of cold logic. "This is the only way." Captain America took a step forward. "What about Lois? What would she say? What about the hope you represent? Not for the multiverse, but for one person on one street in Metropolis. That's where hope starts." For a single, fleeting moment, the red light in Superman's eyes flickered. A flicker of confusion, of pain. of a memory of a Kansas cornfield and a woman's laugh. The cold logic of the veil was pierced by a single shard of humanity. But as the veil's hold weakened, it reacted. The tear in reality behind Thanos and Superman began to boil and writhe. It was not a void, but a prison, and its prisoner was breaking free. A monstrous, terrifying avatar of pure cosmic hunger began to emerge. The veil was not just an influence, it was a being. And it was hungry. As Superman fought for his soul, the true enemy, the cancer of worlds itself, finally showed its face. The fate of everything hung, not on a choice, but on a single flickering glimmer of hope. The veil was not a prisoner, it was a cage. And as Superman's will broke its lock, the cage shattered. From the boiling tear in reality, a monstrous avatar of pure, corrosive energy emerged, a being of cosmic hunger given form. Before it, Superman recoiled, the cold logic of the veil shattered by a flood of his own memories. The Man of Steel was back, and he was devastated. Before the Avengers could react, Thanos moved between them and the newly freed Superman. This was the only way, the Mad Titan stated, his voice grim. The veil could not be fought as a concept. It had to be given form. Your resistance, your hope, and his power, you were the bait. A new, fragile, and desperate alliance was forged in the face of annihilation. Avengers. Captain America's voice cut through the cosmic silence. You heard him. We have one enemy today. Fight with everything you have. The battle was unlike any other, by the All-Father's beard. Thor roared, hurling Mjolnir. Doctor Strange wove intricate spells, his hands a blur of motion, weaving bolts of pure magic that struck at the veil's metaphysical core. The veil shrieked, a sound that was felt in the soul, not the ears. Hulk, a meteor of green rage, smashed into its flank, his roars of fury a match for the entity's own. Captain Marvel joined him, a blazing comet of cosmic power, her fists leaving trails of light as she struck. Superman, his face a mask of grim determination, joined the physical assault, his guilt fueling a righteous fury. He moved like a bolt of lightning, his blows striking with the force of a dying star. He would not let this monster claim another reality. It's not working. Tony Stark's voice crackled over the comms. My scans are showing nothing. We're not hurting it. We're just making it angrier. The horrifying truth dawned on them. The veil could not be destroyed. It could only be severed from the multiverse. As the hero's assault faltered, Thanos revealed his true plan. He activated a device on his gauntlet, and from the empty dimensions he and Superman had pruned, countless points of light screamed into existence, the very life force of those dead realities. It needs to be fed, Thanos bellowed, so let's give it a meal it cannot stomach. He began to channel the horrifying, potent energy, combining it with the full, unrestrained power of Superman. The two figures, the Mad Titan and the Man of Steel, became the heart of a new sun, a blinding beacon of impossible power aimed at the heart of the darkness. Now, Captain, Thanos roared. Seeing the ultimate, terrible necessity of the plan, Captain Marvel added her own cosmic might to the torrent. The three figures became a trinity of unimaginable force, unleashing a single, blinding beam of energy that tore through the veil's avatar. The explosion was silent and absolute. When the light faded, the tears in reality were sealing themselves. The veil was gone, so was Thanos, consumed in the final, sacrificial blast. The war was over. The multiverse was saved. The victory was somber. The remaining Avengers stood on the scarred debris of their battle. Burdened by his actions, Superman offered no excuses, only a solemn vow to help mend the realities they had damaged. He then departed, a solitary figure seeking redemption across the cosmos, leaving the heroes to rebuild their world, forever changed.